An interesting Raw with Femi and Bron Breakker having their contract signing. A bit of a comedic moment there. I think they have nice chemistry, at least initially. Paul Heyman being there and having Bron Breakker call Femi, or that calling Paul Heyman Femi's daddy was intriguing. You do wonder if indeed Paul Heyman will be transferring his services over to Femi, and we'll find out in short order, I'm sure, but still fun. I just still can't believe they're giving this away this quickly. Maybe they just have nowhere else to go, but this would have been an ace in my back pocket that I would have let simmer in the background. Maybe have a tease at the Rumble and then move to Mania or next year's WrestleMania 44. I just would have kept them apart. I'm a big believer in not giving everything away right away, but I'm not really complaining as much as I probably sound like I am, because these two are two of the biggest up-and-coming stars. And yes, they'll try to frame this as, of course, who is the future? This will determine the future. It doesn't. Anybody that's watched wrestling, if you really believe that the outcome of this match will truly determine who's going to be the future of the company, you have watched wrestling for about 4.5 seconds. So, also, before we get going in the Raw review, I want to let you know I did post a video last night on Patreon, and I posted it elsewhere at a couple of the spots, and I know that there's no sound. I don't know how the hell that happened, so I apologize for that. I'm not sure why the sound died, but we'll be remaking a video soon. All right. So we got emails to get to as well. We'll do that in the second half of the show, but let's get through Raw first and talk about it. It came to us from Ottawa, Ontario at the Canadian Tire Center. LA Knight comes out and he accused Roman Reigns of sending every family member he could after him to keep him away. And Knight recalled Reigns saying he hadn't earned a title shot and telling him to win a tournament. And Knight said he doesn't qualify for the current tournament. And Knight then had Solo come out and they played off of each other with their catchphrases, the yeah, and the let me talk to you line. It was a fun little segment here. And we had Solo actually thank Knight for helping him last week. He said that after everything he's gone through, Knight could have said no, but instead he said, yeah. And Solo was going to deliver with everybody saying, but that Knight stopped him. Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso come out and said it looked like they had a funny guy in the ring. And Jimmy said Solo probably thought it was funny last week when he went against his own brothers and spiked the tribal chief, and that he has consequences coming. Solo does. And Jay did the warning shot line, and Solo went into the Matrix slow motion maneuver that we all know. And at this point, though, the Matrix is so old that I'm sure a subset of the audience looked at this and said, what is he doing? And that movie was released in 1999. One of my favorite movies of all time. But it is 27 years old now, 28 years old. No, 27, but whatever. I just do wonder how much longer you can make references to 90s movies before the crowd just goes, huh? But cool and hilarious nonetheless. I enjoyed that from Solo, and Knight closed the segment and they played his entrance music. So we got a tag team match for later in the night, predictably, with Solo and LA Knight taking on the Usos. And I would have liked one little tiny change, because I can't have a segment that I wouldn't like to change, because I just am a perennial complainer. I personally would have had where at the end, a Knight is saying yeah after Solo's asking him a bunch of questions to close the segment. And then we have LA Knight ask Solo a question. And after the 4 yeahs from LA Knight, you have Solo answer, yep. It would kind of go with the pew pew stuff. And I think, they knew that caught on. And social media is really what I think helped blow that up. In the moment, that pew pew, you wouldn't really know from the in-crowd response that would have created a t-shirt. But they knew from obviously the response online that it certainly warranted that. And They don't miss an opportunity to make money. Let's just be clear on that. TKO will never miss an opportunity to put more dollars in their pockets. So I enjoyed this. It was a solid segment. Solo continues to shine here and get more and more comfortable. Who would have predicted this version of Solo Sikoa would have been successful after the years of him being this stoic, serious, soft-spoken version that was in the original bloodline. Eventually he turned on Roman, made his own group, as we all know, that went south real quick. And then it was on his own, not really with a clear direction, and then finds himself here. I mean, it's just pretty incredible. If you had told anybody a year ago, they wouldn't have believed that it wouldn't work, and Solo's a lost cause, he's just boring. Here we are. It's great. Moving on. We then had the next segment here with the first match, which was Stephanie Vaquer taking on Roxanne Perez, which lasted 13 minutes. Stephanie Vaquer gets the victory after Vaquer avoids a moonsault and then hits a butterfly lung blower and gets the 3 count. After the match, Vaquer nodded at Lynch, who came out earlier to save her and do Vaquer a solid after we had Liv Morgan try to interfere, and we had Becky Lynch be the equalizer. Morgan tried to sneak inside the ring at the end of the match too, and Lynch stopped her and entered the ring and held up 2 fingers. And Graves said Lynch was reminding Vaquer that she owes her 2. I'm glad they didn't have the forced tension this week. Nice. It just wasn't working the last few weeks. Not that I don't want to see Becky and Stephanie. We all know that that's eventually going to happen. But the forced tension the last few weeks has been just god-awful, where they're just staring each other down almost in an acting. It felt like an acting class where the instructor said to the students, hey, I want you to really over-enunciate your emotions here. Go overboard. It felt like a very much a performance the last few weeks with Becky and Stephanie. This was a little more casual, a little more natural, and I think it worked. And it wasn't too much of Becky. It wasn't too forced. It drew the line of where Becky and Stephanie are at this moment, and that they have common enemies in Raquel, in Liv, in Roxanne, and it made sense. All right, Rey Fenix and Dragon Lee in a semifinal for a shot at the World Heavyweight Championship. This was the second match of the night, and this one went nearly the identical amount of time as the women's match in 13 minutes and 40 seconds. They got about 30 seconds more than the women if you're keeping track at home. So Rey Fenix wins, and he advances to the finals of the tournament for a shot at the World Heavyweight Championship. So that means Fenix will face the winner of Penta and La Parka. That, of course, would be held later in the show. All right. This match was really good. The finishing sequence here where Lee puts Fenix down with a Styles Clash, and then Lee charges Fenix, catches him with a rolling cutter, and covers him for a near fall. There were some really nice near falls here. The Mexican Muscle Buster was the ultimate determination of who would win this, which of course Rey Fenix did win. And these two, why do I feel like I'm saying the same thing every week about these luchador matches? They're just, if you like luchador wrestling, you will never be disappointed by a lucha wrestling match and the competitors in said match, because they always seemingly deliver. They deliver maneuvers that should not be possible by human beings. The maneuvers that you've seen here, if anyone ever attempted them just out in the public, even just messing around, you would end up paralyzed or paralyzing your intended target. The move that, was it Rey Fenix or Dragon Lee that did almost a somersault through the ropes to the outside of the ring? What the hell was that? And I mean that in the best way. Oh my God. That was insane. Even Logan Paul commented on that. So Moving on, just a very fun wrestling match, fast-paced. It's what today's wrestling fans seemingly gravitate towards, is this 100 miles an hour, not a lot of selling, just a lot of moves and showcasing, which there's something to be said for that. And I don't mean any disrespect of the wrestlers. That's just what today's product has evolved into. But evolution for the sake of evolution doesn't always mean improvement. Sometimes if something's not broken, you don't need to fix it. That's my personal take, because I'm the old fuddy-duddy who really misses the old early 2000s, even late 90s style of wrestling. Slower, more methodical, not a ton of high spots, not slow motion, but not a lot of wasted movement. And not every match was like that. And I know I feel like I am the old guy that says, "Oh, back in my day," but I don't know. I'm a human, and maybe I am fawning for the times of yesteryear. All right, but good match if you like this stuff, no doubt about it. Lola Vice had a vignette air, and they didn't focus on her face and instead just showed her walking in a dress, and they cut to her taking part in MMA training, and it concluded with a 9:14 graphic. So, few weeks, and we will see Lola Vice. All righty. We have next the segment here with Femi and Bron Breakker, the contract signing. Pierce introduced Femi, and Heyman said that with all due respect to Oba, there's no vision for the future without including the phrase "fear the spear." And then Bron Breakker comes out, and he sat at the table and said he was the future until he got hurt. And then Breakker said that he injured himself because no one was man enough to do it, including Femi. And Femi said, "Bron, you're an angry orange man." And I guess that he's talking about the spray tan, which is just, I mean, I don't want to dig too much into that, but I mean, Anyway, I don't know if it was a slight to the president. Many people call Donald Trump orange. I'm not really sure there. It could have just been a knock and meant to only be a knock and not some underhanded slight at other things happening in the world. I don't personally care if even it was a slight on the president. It's just, I do wonder when these things are said, if they really think about all possibilities of what it could mean. Whatever. I'm not making a big deal about it. It just caught my attention quickly. So anyway, makes fun of his tan. And Oba said that at different times, Breakker would have been the future, but Oba said it's 2026 and he is. And that he would show Breakker at Sunday nights. I keep forgetting it's Sunday night's main event, not Saturday. That's at Sunday night's main event. He is the future. And Femi had his name chanted, which again, it does make me very surprised this is happening not only way earlier than I thought it should, but not even at Money in the Bank. It's happening at Sunday night's main event. Let's be honest, a B-level PLE. I'm not mad about getting the match. I'm just willing to wait longer to make it more special. But continuing, Breakker spoke of taking Oba into the deep where they meet, and Breakker said Oba might cast a big shadow with his entrance, but he'll own him in the ring, and then he'll spend the rest of his career living in the shadow. I mean, again, they're trying to sell the match. There is actually no consequence for the loser of this match. That the loser of this match isn't going anywhere, and I would imagine it's Bron Breakker. After all the things they did with Femi, with Brock Lesnar, the last 3 matches, ultimately having him victorious, I really, really would be surprised. I'd be jaw-dropped if they had Bron Breakker win here, but predictions coming in a week or so. All right. Breakker signed the contract and approached Oba while asking him if it was his time to sign it. Of course, this is what I talked about in the open. Breakker shoved the contract into Heyman's chest and said that, is your daddy going to do it for you? And Heyman asked Breakker what he was doing, and Breakker said Heyman was walking around acting as if he represented him, but Breakker got in Heyman's face and told him to sign the contract for Oba, and Breakker turned it turned and hit Oba, and he stood up and they traded punches, and Austin Theory shows up. They beat down Oba Femi. Oba Femi fights back, ultimately putting Theory through a table. And he ended up saying that Breaker will run away from him again. Just like he ran away from him, and will do it again on Sunday night's main event. And Oba signed the contract, and that was it. So here's some analysis from a website here. It says, I thought this might get a big heat segment with Breaker and the Vision roughing up Oba. Rather, Oba got the better of Breaker in theory. Perhaps they'll go with a big heat segment next week to even it up before their match. If they double down on Oba getting the better of Breaker, that might be a sign that Breaker is going over, though I can't imagine it would be a clean win. No, it's not. Again, when I say that I'd be surprised if Breaker wins, that means clean. Of course, you can get a victory on paper in pro wrestling. That doesn't actually equate to you looking better. It's all how you win. That goes unsaid in pro wrestling. So, backstage, Fatu says he doesn't take orders from Jay, who held up his black Ulafala, and Jay told Fatu to stand around backstage and do nothing. Jimmy showed Fatu his black Ulafala, and the Usos left, and Fatu was frustrated. Who cares? I just don't care. That was a throwaway segment for me. I just don't give a shit about Jacob Fatu. I don't care. His character never interested me. It might down the line if they repackage it a bit, but what he's presented thus far, it never caught on with me, and what I want is much more important than what most wrestling fans want, if you didn't know that. So that means that they should just kind of keep Fatu backstage. Maybe keep him in catering. Have a catering cam, and have Fatu just, if you want to see Fatu, well, you got to go to the catering cam. It'll be a live 24/7 feed. I don't mean to be too harsh on him as far as a character goes, but he doesn't have much going. He never had anything going other than just fans are gravitating towards him because he was new and he's a bigger guy and he had a Umaga look to him and he had a lot of energy and he was very flamboyant and he very much, again, just high energy. And then he ends up getting beat by Roman Reigns twice. And the fans are like, okay, bye. And ever since then, that's kind of where he's been. The fans aren't revolting. So I think they were in agreement. Javon Evans and Big Cass. Goes 8 minutes and 50 seconds with Big Cass winning. And yes, he wins. Cass had a bloody lip. And not on purpose. And the match was kind of competitive, but I mean, Big Cass looked okay. He is not a mat technician, nor did anyone try to sell him as such. But you get what you get with Big Cass. I don't want him to be a mat technician. I want him to be smash mouth in your face. You need guys like that on the roster. And he ends up beating him with a big boot. That looked really good, by the way. That big boot that Big Cass gave Javon Evans looked really good. And many people are calling for Javon Evans to not be fired, but they're calling on WWE to do something with Javon Evans and that this is a sign they're going to bury him. No. I mean, he's been on TV fairly consistently, and he's in a 9-minute match on a nationally televised show, and he's in there with a big returning star. Big relatively. So, no, I'm not worried about Javon Evans. People forget about this in a few weeks, honestly. Javon Evans is easily recoverable here because it doesn't have a whole lot of value established with the fans yet. I mean, they just look at him as super athletic, super young, blue chipper. We got a lot of time with this guy. So anybody that's really concerned about Javon Evans, give it like 3 seconds. I mean, seriously. I would not be worried about him, despite the fact that he's gotten his ass kicked by Big Cass for the last month. So, after the match, though, Dom and JD show up and attack Evans, and that was it. Now, the analysis here says, that was not what I expected. Evans showed a more aggressive side and really took it to Cass, even though he ultimately lost. Cass walking away with a bloody lip made the fight that Evans showed look even better. Yeah, and again, it was semi-competitive, but you knew based on what they were doing that Javon Evans wasn't going to win this. And you can win in a loss. That's also a very important lesson in wrestling. Sometimes the loser actually comes out the winner. You want a prime A example? Going back in time now for you young folks. WrestleMania 13, Bret Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin in a submission match. Stone Cold Steve Austin loses the match. Clean. To Bret Hart. He passes out in a sharpshooter. One of the most infamous images in pro wrestling history. The blood running down Stone Cold's face into his teeth. And he passes out. That night, double turn. Executed perfectly. Bret Hart wins, but Stone Cold's the real winner because the fans connected with him that night. They saw what he was willing to give and that he never actually gave up. It was a perfectly executed double turn. So yeah, winning in a loss is what you need to learn from like day one. Okay, we had a little bit of backstage stuff with Io Sky and Sol Ruca and Valkyria, who comes in the picture here, and Ruca said that she saw what Valkyria was doing by trying to get into the title picture, and she said, no, you have to earn it. And then Valkyria nicely, and I mean nicely in the way that she delivered this line really good, she said, quote, Bailey used to talk to me like that. And she walked away. I like that. Because the look that Valkyria has, it's not too over the top as it's been over the last month or so in her promo videos, her pre-recorded segments. She's got a more natural kind of dark look to her. Not quite goth, but unwell is a good way to put it. She looks unwell in the best way. So this was a good, fine segment. I think it was more about Valkyria than anybody else. Okay, Penta versus La Parka in a semifinal match for the world title opportunity. And the match ends with Penta getting the victory after the Mexican Destroyer, which is always just a match that, or a maneuver that scares the hell out of me. Even watching it, because it's a pile driver. I would argue it's more dangerous than a pile driver. Regular pile driver, tombstone pile driver. Why? You may say, well, they're only in the mat for a split second. It's not like a pile driver where you have them, they're in that vertical position longer. Well, it only takes, last I checked, a fraction of a second to break your neck. You don't need several seconds. It's also a more fast muscle twitch maneuver, which means less control. It's quicker, which means there's more room for error. A Mexican Destroyer would scare me infinitely more than getting a pile driver if I had to take one. But somehow it's not outlawed, yet it is a pile driver, just wrapped up in this luchador style. I don't hate the move. I love it. It looks good, really good, and it obviously should be a finish. But for those that are looking at this and just not equating it to a pile driver, or if you do, you're like, yeah, well, a pile driver is more dangerous. Explain why. It's not. So I just hope at some point nobody actually gets injured here. But good move, good finish. Penta wins in a very, very fun match here. That means Penta and Rey Fenix are going to meet next week in the finals. And it should be they're going to get 12, 13, 14, 15 minutes. All righty. We then have, let's see, Adam Pearce praising Chad Gable for the match he had with Rey Mysterio. Gable said that's exactly what he wanted from the match and his title run. And he said that's his legacy. Pearce checked out while talking about working on what's next for Gable. Ethan Page shows up. And he said that Gable was offering title shots to washed up champions to avoid facing him. And Gable said Paige had the same opportunity to win the title that he did, and he tapped him out. And Gable said Paige was near the top of the list of people he wanted to give a title match to, but Paige talked his way out of it. What? Why? What? Why do you have to be? Okay. I like this analysis here because it does go spit in the face of all pro wrestling logic, typically of how title shots are awarded, because it says, so now you have to be nice to Chad Gable to get a shot of this title. It doesn't make sense. The golden rule is act like an asshole, challenge the champion, cheat to win, attack from behind, and what do you get? You get rewarded for bad behavior. And in this case, what do you get? You have to be nice. So Chad Gable, I guess, just wants a please. I think we just need to use the magic word, and he will afford you a title opportunity. Also, was Ethan Page really at the top of his list? You couldn't think of anyone else? And I like Ethan Page, but really? Really? To quote a Miz phrase. Okay, next week on Raw, we got Raquel Rodriguez versus Sol Ruca for the women's IC title. Penta versus Rey Fenix in the tournament final for a shot at the world championship. Again, the winner of that match will take on Roman Reigns on September 14th in Mexico City. And Roman Reigns will appear next week. Boy, fans in attendance must have loved seeing that. Okay. Backstage, Jackie Redmond informed Stephanie Vaquer that she will challenge Liv Morgan for the world championship in 2 weeks. And added that she doesn't need Becky's help. That's from Stephanie Vaquer. She said she doesn't need Becky's help, but she thanked her for it and respects her. And Vaquer said she would take the title back in 2 weeks. So I think Becky will have obviously a say in that. I think we're clearly building towards a triple threat for these women at Money in the Bank. There's little to no chance, I think, that Stephanie Vaquer beats Liv Morgan in 2 weeks. Not impossible, but unlikely, and that this gets into a triple threat. Okay. We have Jimmy and Jay taking on LA Knight and Solo Sikoa, and the match went exactly 10 minutes after we get a very strange ending. OTM. I've never said the names of these people on my show. Bronco Nima and Lucian Price come in the ring, and they are with Royce Keys. They're wearing bandanas around their faces. They attacked Jimmy and LA Knight. Nobody was safe, and it ended in a no contest. So this was, it was impactful from the perspective of it was a vicious beatdown. It was also very boring if you're looking for star power that you recognize. You had probably 95% of the people in the arena going, who the fuck are these people? Outside of maybe some people that knew Royce Keys, although he's been kind of distant lately as well. The vast, vast majority of people are in the arena just asking themselves who these people are and what is going on. And that's frustrating if you are expecting a crazy main event with big surprise returns. You get a bunch of people you don't know. But this is, and these are, the growing pains of building new stars. You have to start somewhere. And you just hope that it's not in your city, because it's always just, be honest, it's boring. You're annoyed by it because you want star power. Totally understand. Because you spent your time, likely now a bunch of money, to go to these events and you get let down, especially in the main event. Totally get it. But as wrestling fans, we have to look at this and say, hey, this is the star building process. Not everyone's a star out of the gate. And are these three men going to be big stars? Who knows? But you can't ever really know if you don't try. And I don't blame WWE for doing this. I don't hate the finish of this main event. I don't like that we're still seeing Jimmy and Jay do babyface entrances. I thought they were firmly in the heel camp. I don't know anymore. I'm giving up on who's heel, who's babyface with the bloodline. Again, I really don't care about the bloodline, as we know. Solo is much more interesting, and LA Knight and his pairing, the chemistry there is really fun. But my point is, this is not something that as a fan, even at home, that you're annoyed by or bored by. You really should take a step back and realize what needs to be done here. Building stars is how this company will continue. And in the end, are these three men going to be big stars? If they're not, well, you got to try it. So I don't fault them for it. It brings in some new faces that we'll all get to know over the coming weeks. Hopefully hear from them. I'll admit I've never heard of any of these men, other than Royce Keys. I've never seen the other two men ever in my life, never heard the names, zero. They are completely from scratch in my mind. So overall, again, I thought it was a good show. Give it a B-. Good wrestling for sure. I think good wrestling is what the name of the game was for this show, mixed in with a little bit of humor and some fun time here with LA Knight and Solo Sikoa. So I thought, again, okay to good show. How about that? Okay to good. So that's about a B-, C+. That's where I would list this show. So there you go. Now let's get to the emails, as we have a couple floating around here. Let's go to Steph in Ottawa. And Steph, I believe it's not Stephanie based on your name. It's Stefano. So I'm guessing you're a guy. But he says, or whatever. I'm going to go with he. He says, big fan of your show. Love that you always tell the truth, and I share the same views as you. I attended the Ottawa Raw and SmackDown taping. It was a fun night, but SmackDown felt quite rushed. The main event triple threat match was largely predictable, with Sami interfering, ending in a no-result finish. Are we headed for a fatal four-way number one contender match? We could be. I mean, again, I think Sami Zayn should be an outright contender. He should already have been afforded a rematch based on how he lost the championship and how such a short period of time that he actually held it. We could be. I mean, you put Sami in any scenario, he's going to thrive in the ring, and he's found himself again on the microphone and as a personality, as a character, and his shirt says justice for Sami, and he's always got something to bitch about or that he's been wronged somehow. That's really been his shtick forever, is that he's been wronged or misused or abused. That's really been his whole thing, his whole career at a baseline, and it's worked for him. As for Raw, the Luchador matches stole the show, especially Fenix versus Lee. Just awesome stuff, and holy shit, this is awesome chants, which were warranted. Absolutely. Yeah, I would agree with that. Those chants should be reserved for only the best, and this was a really good match. If you're looking for just quality wrestling and you love the luchador style, can't hate this. After SmackDown, Kevin Owens had an emotional promo about wrestling several times in Ottawa, but specifically feeling the love tonight. That's always great when you hear the stuff off camera. I like that because you know it's true most of the time. And Kevin Owens does seem like a genuine person. He does, and that's what makes him so likable, is he doesn't look like the rest of the stars, yet he has elevated himself to that tier of top tier talent, despite the fact that he doesn't have a body that looks like it came out of the Vince McMahon factory. So merch lines were constantly packed, and I wasn't about to spend $50 in tax on a shirt. Is that really what it was? I believe it. They keep up the great work. Well, thank you, Steph. I'm glad you enjoyed the show, I think. $50. I mean, good God. That should be... That's criminal. But again, if people are buying them, that's the price they're going to be. So until we stop buying the shirts at that price, they're going to keep listing them at that price. The best thing you can do is not bitch online, which maybe I should take my own advice, but rather speak through your wallet by not giving them anything from it. That is the best way to communicate your displeasure with something. That's the only language TKO knows. They hear the complaints and they will sometimes look at things and say, we better change this or that because this doesn't seem like a fad. This seems like something that may hurt us from a public perspective, which may ultimately, of course, hurt our stock price and hurt everything, right? So that indirectly affects their money when we do that consistently and we have a movement. But more directly is just don't buy tickets. Don't buy merch when it's at that price. Of course, it's your money. Do what you want. But I'm just telling you, as a collective, if we did that, we'd see more change. $50 for a t-shirt. Holy shit. All right. Dylan says, I have some random questions. I'll try to keep most of them wrestling related since it's a wrestling show. Ugliest WrestleMania logo? Ooh, that's a good question. I was not a fan of WrestleMania 33. That's the one I attended. I was there in Orlando. I went there at the Camping World. I hated the logo. And I'm thinking back to the earliest WrestleManias that I had watched, and my first one was actually WrestleMania 14. To me, all those were classics. WrestleMania 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, all the way through 30 with the WrestleMania XXX. Maybe WrestleMania Play Button. I think that was WrestleMania 32 also. It was when they first had the network. It was infamously called WrestleMania Play Button. Yeah, that wasn't great either. But all right, worst celebrity to ever be on TV. Good question. I mean, that's a hell of a question. Snooki wasn't great. The Snooki was kind of embarrassing. Although she did, to her credit, did perform some maneuvers in the ring at WrestleMania that weren't horrible. I remember Bob Barker being on there. Remember when it was trendy to be the host of Raw 15 years ago? Bob Barker was actually a host on WWE Monday Night Raw. That was a very interesting time in Raw's history. So Snooki wasn't great. I mean, I'm trying to think. Drew Carey, although Drew Carey actually was good with Kane, believe it or not, in the late 90s, early 2000s. He had this running joke with Kane. Pete Rose. I mean, I'm going through the ones I loved, but worst celebrity ever. And how about this? Any ones that don't take it seriously, and you can tell they're just there in tongue in cheek, and they just. I mean, how about this? I got it. Easy. How about the John Cena Cody Rhodes matchup from 2 years ago when we had The Rock not show up? Remember that? Yeah, I'm old enough to remember that. Travis Scott. There's your answer. By far. If you could travel anywhere in the world for a week for free in only one place, where would it be? Ooh. Well, you didn't say it could be a place that I haven't already been, or you didn't qualify it there. Been to some really good places. Been to Cancun 5 times now, 6 times, maybe 5, 6 times. I love Cancun. Big fan. I don't care that it's a touristy spot. I don't give a shit. There's that meme online where people are saying, there's like a picture of a tent in a, in the middle of like the woods, and it's essentially making fun of people that say they'd rather go camping than be on the beach. And I am on the opposite. I mean, just give me a fucking beach and an all-inclusive resort every single day. Don't try to be trendy or go against the grain. I'd rather be camping. Bullshit. You're just trying to, you're putting forth a message. You don't really believe that. But I mean, I Cancun, I love it there. I've been to Hawaii once in 2007. I was with an ex ex-girlfriend. Another story for another day. I really should make a separate... Although I don't know who the fuck's listening to this, which also is kind of interesting. Not that I'd get myself in trouble. It was goddamn 20 years ago. But anyway, so much to say on certain things. But Hawaii was beautiful. But how about a place I haven't been? It's tough because you only know what you know through pictures. I would say, I would love to go overseas. I'd love to go to Spain. I'd love to go to Iceland. How about that? I'd say Iceland for a place I haven't been, but for places I have, throw me on a tropical beach with all-inclusive drinks, baby. Favorite Japanese wrestler? Shinsuke. Would you rather ever go apple picking with Nikki or go skateboarding with Jacob Fatu? I'd rather go apple picking with Nikki Bella because I don't want to risk injury with a fucking moron. Very unlikely I'd get injured going apple picking. So, best advice for shaving a head bald because I'm debating of doing it. My hair is god awful. Just do it. Look, certain people can look better and do look better with bald heads. And the only way to know if you are that guy is to just do it. It's better than hanging on. And again, we've all got the genetics of what we have, whoever our family line is. And from what I understand, it does come from your mother's father. I don't know how much truth is in that, but for my family line, that is true. Not all of us get the lifetime guarantee on the hair. Mine started, as I said, in my late 20s, looking at my hair, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? And I just hung on. And I've been shaving my head ever since, my God, 13 years. Because it would look ridiculous if I didn't. You know what I'd look like? I wouldn't quite look like Kane from 2004 when he half shaved his head, but not far from it. I'll say that. I would have no hair on the top half of my head. It would look, I can't even, I will never put that on the line as a bet. If someone's like, oh, if you lose this bet, you have to grow your hair for a month. Fuck that. There's really almost no scenario you could give me where I would agree to that. But just do it, man. And you could also, if you want to, there are hair transplant places. Turkey, from what I understand, is a hot spot for that. And for about $5,000 all in, you can get a hair transplant. You'll see the results, full results, I guess, between 12 and 18 months. I'm trying to be funny about that. That's actually like a thing. People go to Turkey for that. But just do it. Just do it. You'll at least know how you look. And if you like it, you're going to save on haircuts. All right. Would you ever get a simple Steve Austin tattoo? I don't know. What would it be? Just like 316? Okay. If I did, it would be hidden. And it would be 316 like in my armpit or something. The reason is, for obvious reasons, wrestling isn't cool. And yeah, you could say, well, it's for you, it's not for people. Yeah, okay, well, everyone sees it still. And I don't want to have to explain it or be embarrassed by it. As much as I love Stone Cold Steve Austin, I probably wouldn't do that. Do you ever think you'd get a wrestling tattoo? Again, same answer there. Something simple, not flashy. You would have to try to tell me what this simple tattoo is. Is it something that you could equate to wrestling or not? That would be my thing, is whatever I get, I could explain it away as not a wrestling tattoo. And you may say, well, you're embarrassed to be a fan? Yeah, 'cause sometimes, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm not sometimes. Just because sometimes the product is so cringy that it's fucking embarrassing. It just is. And again, anybody that says that otherwise, I think you're lying as well, or you're lying to yourself. I love wrestling because I know what it can be. And I have a lot of complaints today because a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times it's just outright embarrassing. And that's why when I go to events, I have to totally admit with you guys, when I go to live events, which is few and far between now, I very rarely will participate in the noise of the crowd. Very rarely. Meaning the clapping. Well, I'll clap if a match is really good, whatever, almost as like as an applause. But for me to get up and scream during an entrance, at least when I'm sober, I certainly don't do that. I find myself almost as if I feel like I'm at a kid's show and I'm 41 years old and I'm thinking to myself, what the fuck am I doing? Like, and I don't know. That's how I feel. It doesn't make me better than anybody there. That's not my message. I'm glad people are having fun, because if it was everybody like me there, the show would be horrible. It'd be one of the worst crowds of all time. So, yeah, anyway, do you like Starbucks? Yes. I've learned to like it more over the years. It's just not cheap, and they're always looking for a goddamn tip there. I don't know how your local Starbucks is, especially when you go through a drive-through. They hand you the point of sale and the POS device, and they're like, oh, it's just going to ask you a question. I would like, well, yeah, I wonder what it's going to ask me. That I should give you more money for pouring me a cup of coffee? You mean for just doing your job, I'm supposed to give you more money for already overpriced coffee? Don't give me the bullshit. Just going to ask you a question. Get the fuck out of here. Look, tipping culture has also gotten out of hand. All right, I'm not against tipping in principle, but the reason for tipping and how often tipping is asked for has morphed into just, it's an entitlement, not for a reward for going above and beyond a service, right? When somebody does a good thing and helps you out, or delivers a really excellent service, like for a waiter, right? If they're friendly and they're attentive and they're personable, you're going to give them a better tip because you're thinking, hey, they really helped enhance my experience. They added to the experience. Now we're asked for tips before the service is rendered. That's totally backwards. Tips should be not an entitlement and not as a substitute for a company paying a salary because they don't want to pay it, so they push that salary expense onto customers. No. Tips are for excellent service. That's it. We're not redefining it. And it's gotten out of fucking hand. Everywhere you go, the terminal says, would you like the tip? And they're like looking right at you as you answer the question. So you feel guilty if you don't. You have to be soulless if you want to save yourself a bunch of money in tips. And again, that doesn't mean never do it if someone is excellent in providing the service to you. I'm saying, but when it's asked for ahead of time or for a menial task that, again, I also get if you're talking about Starbucks, I get like a Pike coffee black, which means all you're doing is literally taking the pot and pouring it into a cup. There's no extra effort here. It is the bare minimum and easiest possible thing you could order on the menu. And they're still asking me for a tip. Fuck you. You have to go soulless in those instances and just look at them and press the no thanks as you're doing it, knowing that they know that you just did that. All right. You have a Canadian accent. Are you part Canadian? Yes. That's funny. It's funny you mentioned that. I did not think I have a Canadian accent. I feel like I don't. I don't. I don't say about. I don't have that weird. I don't say that stuff. So maybe you're hearing something that's not there. But funny enough, I'm French Canadian. But my bloodline is up in Montreal. That's actually where my ancestors were from. And I did the whole ancestry.com stuff. So yeah, funny enough, but I grew up in the United States. I visited Montreal a few times, but I don't know, maybe it's just in my DNA. It's coming out. I don't know what that's all about. All right. What would you do if you order food at a fine dining restaurant and Femi's your waiter? I guess eat my food. I mean, I'm not a huge Femi guy. I guess I would say, oh yeah, cool. What's your salary over there? Are they, you just beat Brock Lesnar in a Hell in a Cell match. You faced him at WrestleMania. Are they giving you minimum wage? Are you making that little that you have to have a side gig? Are you also part Uber driver too? Also, how do you have the time for this? I'd actually be more interested in how and why he's doing it than the fact that it's him. Can listeners ever come on the show? Have some of your listeners have a crack at being on the show, just chatting? I used to do live shows. That was actually a thing I did back when there was a platform called Blog Talk Radio. They went out of business a couple of years ago, and they were great. I mean, you could call a number. It was like a call-in radio show almost. And you get a number to call, and there was a dashboard that was intuitive, and you could put people on hold. And I've had some people that are just assholes. Not you, but obviously not you. But it's a risk because you never know who you're going to get. But that platform went away, and there hasn't really been a platform to come and substitute that very well, other than just, there's Riverside and others that you can click on a link, and it's almost like a VoIP. It's not a call-in number anymore. It's you click on a link and you're put in this waiting room. And so there are ways to do it. I'm not saying I won't ever do it. Maybe it is something I bring back. It was fun because it adds to the show, and you never know what people are going to ask. And I haven't had anyone live on the show in a long time because just my schedule, and it's much easier to just do it myself when I can do it whenever I want to do it and not be beholden or feel bad that I have to reschedule or change or people are waiting on me. And I don't like that. Not a fan. And that's a me thing. So will I bring back the live format in some form or fashion? Very possible. Would you rather eat a tick or a baby spider? Oh God, a tick. There's less mass there. Depending on the size of the tick too. I mean, is the tick engorged? Did it just? There's a question, because if it just engorged somebody, and now it's got somebody else's blood in it, then I'd have to go with the spider, especially if it's a baby spider. And also, what kind of spider? See, I'm thinking, is it a wolf spider? Is it a tarantula? Is it a bird-eating spider? Is it a little daddy long legs? I mean, I don't know. But generally, if it's just a tick that hasn't bitten anybody and a baby spider that's just like a house spider, probably still go with a tick, as gross as that is to think about. All right. NXT or ECW? Which version of ECW? I'm going to guess you're going to say the original ECW. ECW, because of its innovation. It was a leopard in a spotted leopard in a uniform society where everybody's wearing the same color. It was a weird analogy, but it was the different product. It offered something different than WCW and WWF. So ECW, I would say. Finally, popcorn or candy at the movies. I'm not a big movie eating guy, I have to say. Not only because it's insanely overpriced, but because I feel like total just dog shit if I eat either of those things for a 2-hour movie. And I mean that popcorn, they soak in the artery clogging butter that, I mean, it tastes great for the first couple of minutes, but your stomach can turn so quickly with that. I have to say, if it's movie popcorn or candy, how about a little bit of both? Because you get the sweet and salty. So I do maybe a cup of popcorn and get some snow caps. A big snow cap guy. I love snow caps. I'm trying to think of movie candy. I don't know. Mike and Ike are okay. But I'd say, how about that? Yeah. Snow caps and a little bit of popcorn. Thanks, Dylan. Good stuff. I like these segments where I'm asked questions not about wrestling. Makes me wonder if I should do a podcast not about wrestling. Oh, wait, I have one of those. I just don't update it. Anyway, thanks, everybody. I will be back in a couple of days with your mailbag. And I am going to be on vacation starting Saturday. Now, if you've stuck with me over the last few months, years, you know that I still do shows even when I'm on vacation. It just is in a weird format. I don't sound the same because I'm usually tucked away in a car at 10 o'clock at night, so I don't wake people up in the house. And that will be the case this time. So I will try over the next week, after the mailbag show, starting with the week in review, I will get you the show, hopefully about the same time I normally would, but it will be being recorded from a different location, and usually the sound quality isn't as top notch as it is here in my studio. So just a heads up. But everybody, thank you for listening. I will be back in a few days. Send me those emails, mailbag@wwepodcast.com. Go ad free at Patreon as well at patreon.com/WWEpodcast. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.